Hello and welcome to the Shacknews Chattycast, the podcast that paints your wagon red. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Watts.
I was going to do a follow-up, but like the connection just died there for a second.
Oh no!
I am your other. Yeah, I was going to say with blood, I bet, but that was not the.
Yeah.
Anyway, so today's Chattycast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Chattycast.
Thank you, Brian. I don't know if you said your name. With us today is Austin. Every week we pick a big topic, post about it in the chatty, then we talk about it in detail with your comments. Today's guest is our CEO/janitor again, Asif Khan.
Hey guys. Pretty good. How you guys doing?
So, if the Western references did not make it clear, we're sort of anticipating further news about Red Dead Redemption 2. / Red Dead Retribution / Red Dead Kitty Cat.
It should have been like Red Dead Revenge or something like that.
Yeah, something. I'm not a huge fan of the title. We can get into that, but apparently in the source code where Rockstar laid a bunch of like fake titles to throw people off, one of the fake titles is Red Dead Kitty Cat. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Red Dead Redemption. We've actually talked about doing this privately for a while, having just like a week where we just kind of do a deep dive on a game that has already been out for a while, not necessarily like a brand new one, but just like a retrospective that we just want to talk about for a while. And so it seemed like a good opportunity to do that with Red Dead Redemption 2, the reveal trailer imminent. We're going to talk about Red Dead Redemption, I guess not the original because there was Red Dead Revolver, but the original as far as, most people are concerned.
The way I look at it as this is the second Red Dead game that counts. That actually matters.
Red Dead Revolver doesn't count. But before we get to all of that, we're going to talk about what we have been playing. And Asif, our resident VR expert, I know that you've been to Oculus Connect and also we've both been playing PlayStation VR. So let's do a quick recap of both of those things.
Okay, I'll do my hot takes on Oculus Connect real quick.
Hot takes. Only the hottest.
So, Lone Echo, you're in space. It's basically a drift, but good. So you're floating around. You have touch controls instead of the gamepad. The means of locomotion is you grab onto stuff and pull yourself. So you're in zero G and you're kind of grabbing stuff, and you also have these jets on both of your arms.
Do you get incredibly sick?
No, that's what's amazing about this, Steve, is that you don't. So you have these jets on your hands that you go like this, and you kind of look like Superman while you fly through the air. So that's a really cool feeling. It has a single player and a multiplayer component. The multiplayer component is basically Frisbee, like ultimate Frisbee in space, and it's freaking awesome. It's 5-on-5 online multiplayer, and there's a single player campaign. That's Lone Echo. Robo Recall from the Unreal guys. Oh yeah, Lone Echo's from Ready at Dawn. Robo Recall from the Unreal guys. It's free next year for anyone who buys Oculus Touch. It's basically the evolution of that Bullet Train demo. So it's like you've tried Bullet Train, you tried that other one where it was just a robot. It's a wave-based. It's almost like Crackdown meets a wave-based shooter. And the one thing that they did, I think they were one of the first people, Unreal, to showcase this teleport mechanic in VR. The one thing they've done is you hold down the left thumbstick to do it, and then it shows you where you're going to be teleporting, but it also shows you an arrow. That arrow is where you're going to be facing. So you determine that by where you're pointing the left thumbstick while you're holding it in, which I thought was kind of cool. I tried out another game called Arctica, which was a shooter that takes place in Russia. It's another game that takes teleportation a little differently. You have these stationary areas that you can teleport to, but you can jump between them really quickly. The oh crap moment that I had in that demo was when you get through this really complicated part of the level, a lot of enemies, and then, just naturally I let out a breath, and when I did that, I could see like you're in Russia and it's like -30 outside. I could see my breath in VR, and I was like, whoa, that was really cool. So that
makes me think of Metroid Prime with seeing her breath on her visor.
Yeah, so I actually started clapping right when that happened. Super Hot VR. We didn't have an appointment with them, but I don't know if you remember, Steve, 2 E3s ago, they came to our hotel and did an interview with us. I I actually brought them In-N-Out that night. So they remembered me as the guy who brought them In-N-Out, and they're like, "Yeah, come on in, try this out." And they did an interview with Greg.
We knew that would pay off eventually.
Yeah, I know, right? What's cool about Super Hot, well, I don't know if you've tried the game where you move and that's what determines your enemy's movements. So in VR, that's even more intense. Dodging bullets, grabbing them, all that stuff. It's grabbing guns from your opponent. It's super hot in VR. It's awesome. A game I think you would really like, Steve, and Greg, the second day when he was done with all of his interviews, he literally played this game for 2 hours straight in the press room. No one stopped him. It's called the devs were just like in love with him because they're like, this guy's been in there for 2 hours. But it's basically Hearthstone reimagined for virtual reality. It's a grid-based CCG, and you got it's really good. It's actually I don't know. There's something about a tabletop game in VR that just feels right. The way that they show you where your mana is, how many turns you have, like all that stuff. The way that they just display it.
Does it recreate like a card table where you're like grabbing the cards and laying them down and stuff like that?
No, you're not grabbing the cards. It still uses a gamepad because it works with Gear VR as well as Oculus. So you're able to call up your cards and they kind of appear in front of you and you choose them and then you play them. Similar to how Hearthstone works. But you're not... what you see is a visual representation that's in 3D of all of your enemies. Just like in Hearthstone where you're watching them fight, but it's really just cards fighting. Now you're seeing like an actual orc or an actual whatever fighting each other. And there's other things where like some of your enemies are floating, so they can do things that like other people can't, and you can build barriers that prevent that stuff. So there's a lot. It's really good balancing to it. It's going to be free to play, and then you can buy card packs. So it's definitely following that Hearthstone model, but it's reimagined for VR, and it definitely had almost a chess feel to it. Because some of the enemies could attack differently than just straight ahead of them. Like I said, it is grid-based, so it's a little bit different. I love that game. Landfall was another game. It's basically, God, this game was so good. It's a Smash TV with, you're two teams of two, right? And you're basically on this isometric map watching. It's a third-person perspective game, right? You have these little guys. One side has a limited amount of spawns, like 210. The other one has unlimited, and you have to defend your base. Like red team defends the base from the blue team, and it's just like madness. There's mechs, there's missiles, there's all sorts of stuff. It's really fun. Those are most of the highlights from Oculus Connect. PSVR. Oh yeah. Well, by the way, I've been playing Duke.
You've been playing. You seem not crazy happy with that rendition of Duke Nukem.
Well, the Megaton Edition is better. They should have just brought back the Megaton Edition and added the new chapter. That would have been great. If they gave me that for $20, I wouldn't be complaining. But what they did was strip out all of the good stuff from Megaton. Just give you original Duke with this new chapter, and they charge you $20 for it. So no, I'm conflicted. I love Duke, so more Duke is good for me. The new chapter is great. Playing through a level with Level Lord's design, with the original musician and the original voice of Duke is great. It just made me wonder why the hell, like when Shadow Warrior 2 came out the same week, why wasn't this created in Unreal Engine 4? And why didn't they just say, you know what, let's make a new Duke game instead of just showing us this proof of concept with an engine from 1996? I don't know. I don't get it, and I don't think it's worth $20. And I don't blame anyone on Shacknews who's upset about it. But the people who are diehard Duke fans really do like this because it's more Duke. That game's great. Gears is also awesome. I actually have stopped playing Rocket League.
What?
All these other games. It's all these other games.
That's true. So, PlayStation VR. I want to get a hot take from you. What is your favorite PSVR game, and what is your least favorite PSVR game that you've tried? Obviously.
Well, I was a huge fan of Rez when I was younger. when that came out. I remember whatever website I was working for at the time. We weren't a Sony site, but we were all fawning over Rez. So now I get to play Rez in VR. It's freaking awesome. Like talk about just, and it's a rail shooter. So you would think that would make you nauseous or something, but God, it's just
it's fine. Yeah,
aiming
I mentioned that in my finalized PSVR review. I sort of touched on some of the software, and I was like, I've never been much of a music game guy, but if you are, then Thumper and Rez are like the premium PSVR experiences right now.
I was gonna say Thumper, but I'm such a geek for Rez that it is my favorite thing. It's the thing that I play every day, because it's just relaxing. It's a nice way to unwind at the end of the day. Is just go play some Rez, and the music is great. I'm a huge fan of electronic music, and Rez is like it's a procedurally generated electronic music track basically. Thumper, oh my God, that game is
pretty good outside of VR too. So
I actually played it. The first time I played it was not in VR, just to see how it felt. And it's great not in VR, and it's great in VR. The worst game that I've played is Riggs. I am not a fan of Riggs.
Oh no, we're gonna have a fight. That was no. I think I'm gonna agree with you in one big part, because Riggs I think is the most game. It's got like progression hooks, and it's meant to be played over a long period of time and stuff like that. But it's also the one that is like most likely to make you sick. So if you have a strong stomach and you can stand it, then it's fun. But I feel like it's a big ask to be like, hey, invest in this game and then see if you get sick. Yeah,
no, I think the price tag's pretty high for Riggs, and I also I guess it just seems like Riggs existed before they decided to make a VR headset. And it was like, hey, we made this game. We might as well. I mean, like,
here's the thing: they don't force you down the head control movement option, but that is like the default. And then they say, hey, you can switch it to sticks if you want to.
Because I
think the head control thing actually works like way better.
I do too. I didn't choose to do I'm like, less controller-based controls for this game, please. It's like, I think one of the main problems is the locomotion is all thumbstick-based. It's just like, I don't know, you can jump in it. Usually games in jump, or where you can jump in VR, people tend to get sick because your body's not moving up and down. But
I've got a pretty like firm stomach for motion stuff. Like I don't tend to get VR sickness really. But like the tutorial for Riggs, they tell you when you start up Riggs, and I'll make this very fast, but they tell you when you start up Riggs, like, hey, play this in short bursts. Like, this is meant to be a game that you do not play for like a super long time.
And then they give you a super long tutorial though.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say. Like, they're like, don't play this for a long time. By the way, here's a 30-minute tutorial with no like particular point that it seems like, okay, come back later. It just seems like it keeps going. Like, okay, now do the next thing. Now do the next thing. Now do the next thing.
Honestly,
and so, like 30 minutes later, after this half-hour tutorial, even I was like a little bit like, I gotta go sit down somewhere.
I'm like, you really want me to keep playing this now? I just played it for 30 minutes. I don't want to play it anymore. That's the thing. My PSVR experience is 20 to 40 minutes. And I talked about this before with Vive and Rift. I don't want to sit in VR. Maybe Dragonfront's an exception. Maybe Landfall. These third-person perspectives where you're just sitting there anyway. But I don't want to be running around in VR or moving around in VR for more than 40 minutes at a time. That's kind of where I'm at. And it's like, just to get started in Riggs took 30 minutes. And I'm just like, oh my God. And now I have to play this thing? And it's fun.
Yeah, it's too long for a game with that much movement involved.
I mean, I've played other mech games in VR, and it's just not that different. And it's okay, but
to add one more to the pile of on the good pile though. If you want to pay $20 for basically a demo, then Batman is the best demo. The PlayStation VR Worlds thing is like, okay, that's mostly like trash and boring.
Yeah,
but Batman VR. Batman Arkham VR, I guess it's called, is like the best little like encapsulation where you play an hour and you get like, oh, this is what VR can do, and it does some really cool stuff with the accenting Batman as a detective, more than a brawler, which is better for like traditional video games. So like that's really cool, but then it's over and it's like, okay, I never have to play that again because it just delivers a story. And once you've seen the story, you're like, all right, 'cause it's a mystery-based story, and it comes with like a twist that's like, I don't see how they even go anywhere from here. This must be like an Elsewhere story or something, because yeah, it's weird. And then you don't really have anything else to do. They're like, you can collect Riddler trophies by going back through the chapters. I'm like, no, that's okay.
Oh boy, Riddler trophies.
I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was gonna say, did you try that tank game for PSVR?
Oh, Battlezone.
Yeah,
it's all right. Yeah, I tried I tried both the heavy tank and the light tank, and the light tank feels like it is not balanced for that game. I was like, I want to be zippy and move around real quick, but it's like, oh, that just means you need to like hammer something for several minutes before it goes down. Yeah, so it's not.
I literally bounce. I just bounce between Res and Thumper. I haven't really. I haven't been playing much else with PSVR, and honestly, I spent most of my weekend playing Gears, even though I had a brand new PSVR sitting there, just because I'm.
That should say something. Still traditional video games.
I have other headsets. VR is not
That's
some
true.
new.
Yeah.
It's not some novelty to me.
I just turned in my. I turned in. I'm the editor, but I just finished my PlayStation VR review yesterday, and basically said like, this is like a good mid-tier option for people who are curious about it, but it's definitely not, the best on the market or anything. I do think it's very comfortable. I know you and I disagree with on that point, but
I just have my problem with the ergonomics. I agree that it's well counterbalanced, but I always feel like it's not tight enough or too tight, and it's probably because I'm wearing glasses. That might be it. But yeah, I've run into problems where I feel like because it's missing that head strap that goes on top of your head, it's never going to feel as tightly fit to me as a Vive or a Rift. Where it's better is the ergonomics of the one cable coming out of the side of it, the angle that cable comes out of it. That is better than the Vive for sure. Also, it's just not as high quality as Rift or Vive. It's just not. The screens inside that you're looking at are not. But yeah, it's a good first entrance, and
it's fine. It's like a good entry level, like, and something I noted in my review. We're going to move on to this and let Brian talk about his games, I promise. But something I mentioned in my review.
That's what I'm watching, the Guardians 2 trailer. You guys do whatever you want.
There's a trailer now.
There's a teaser for the trailer.
Oh, nice.
Teasers for trailers.
It's simple to set up in the same way that consoles are simple to set up. So if you're one of those people that's just like, I just want to plug in a PlayStation 4 and just play some video games. I don't want to have to worry about like my settings or my hardware configuration. I just want to plug it in and blah, blah, blah. PlayStation VR is like almost as easy as that. So if you just want to like plug in a thing and have it work, then
I don't know. But Steve, this cable assembly.
Yeah, I know. The cable box is a mess.
Come on. Look at
basically
this.
Like,
I don't want moving parts in my cable assembly. This is stupid.
It is basically like
plug the thing into the unnecessary thing I've ever seen. I'm sorry.
It is basically plug out all the wires into the places where they fit, and then it works. So it's it's not too high impact.
Lola's mad about the cable assembly.
Yeah, I'm sure. So the thousands of snakes. There are so many snakes in here. So Brian, what have you been occupying?
Yeah. So the only thing I've really
as we've gone on and on.
The only thing I've been playing that I can really speak of. I mean, I played a little bit more WWE. And it's good. It's certainly not terribly different from the last one, but I think that they've at least are approaching, like maybe stumbling, not really baby steps.
Brian?
Stumbling is a better word.
I hate to interrupt you. You're sounding a little robotic. Going up to Mark.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let's
try it again. He muted himself for a second.
Let's try that again.
Riveting radio. This is why we have the cuts process later.
Now he's not even audible. He was playing WWE. I know that much.
Yeah, I can just go over my games while he's fiddling with wires. So I've been playing some Skylanders for review. Sort of my annual tradition of playing Skylanders. Yeah, it's a Skylanders game. The character creation stuff is kind of cool.
Is it the last Skylanders?
It might be. Who knows? But it's definitely got the same old syndrome of Activision's annual franchises. The big new, whiz bang feature is the character creation, which in some ways is like less flexible than I would like it to be. Like when I noticed like you can't create a four-legged creature, or less, which basically means like you can't make a dragon, and dragons are like a thing in Skylanders. They always have been. And I tried making a a ninja character, and ninjas are like by definition like their heads are huge and their bodies are like little. And it's like, what if I just want to make like a normal looking ninja instead of like this weird candy apple? But it's still Skylanders. It's still fine.
We still can't hear Brian.
The character progression for the created characters is not the best. They've got like basically a few moves and upgrades for those moves, and you can only equip so many at a time. So it's not quite like the upgrade path for real characters, quote unquote. And the other game that I've been playing quite a bit of lately is Plants vs. Zombies Heroes.
Yeah, you've been talking about that a lot.
PVZ Hearthstone. The UI is like a little wonky. Like I don't understand how anybody makes an iOS game where you can't just drag things to make a menu work. Instead, you have to like hit the thing, and then it brings down a little drop down menu where it's like add, and then you hit add. It's like, why? That's not how this should work. I should be able to drag a card over into my deck. And my only other real gripe is it has too many heroes. Hearthstone, by comparison, launched with 8 and still has 8. It's got some alternate skins for heroes, but they still have the same power set. This has like 20. It's launching with 20 different 10 different plants and 10 different zombies, which I feel like is too many because at least getting started in the game, there have been several points that I've lost or come close to losing just because they broke out a card that like I didn't know existed, or like a power that I didn't know existed, because you can only learn so many. And so I'm like, oh, I guess he can do that, and now I lose because I didn't know he could do that, so I didn't know to prepare for it in any way because there's way too many enemies. But I'm sort of starting to learn the ropes of like how different heroes work and how to combat their strategies and stuff. So I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It's very cute and charming. I hope that eventually I learn the heroes well enough to be able to play against them. My main is a cute little sunflower with goggles. She's adorable. Yeah.
No, that does sound adorable. Are you going to be playing this instead of Hearthstone, or are you going to go
back
to Hearthstone?
No. I mean, obviously, I do my Hearthstone dailies, and then I go and play some Plants vs. Zombies. That's how it works. Do we have Brian back? Can I hear you? Oh, no, I don't hear his voice.
Oh, my God.
What is happening?
I don't know. It's probably because he was watching Guardians of the Galaxy while doing the Chattycast.
Yeah. Let's blame that.
Disney. That must be it. It's Disney's fault. Yeah. I don't know.
One thing about PvZ Heroes that I thought was actually kind of cool, Brian, just like as you're trying things, just like continuously talk, and eventually you'll interrupt me and it'll work. So one thing that I forgot to mention about PvZ that's kind of cool. Yeah, it probably needs to close out and rejoin. We'll fix all this in post. One thing about Plants vs. Zombies. Yeah, there's one person. One thing about Plants vs. Zombies that I didn't mention that's kind of cool is the phases work differently than in Hearthstone. Like in Hearthstone and in most collectible card games, it's like you have a turn, then they have a turn, then you have a turn, then they have a turn, et cetera, et cetera. And this zombies always go first. Like the way that a turn phase works, zombies always go first. So you see the zombie things pop up, plants get a chance to respond with whatever plants they want to play, and then zombies get a turn to respond with, if they have any remaining brains, which is like their mana, they get to respond with what they call zombie tricks. So there's sort of a strategic push-pull of, if you notice they have some brains left, you might want to be avoiding a trick. If you think that if you're playing the zombie side and you think the plan might counter whatever you lay down, you might want to save some brains to play a trick. And that sort of makes it feel more like a Plants vs. Zombies game where you see the zombies coming first and then the plants respond strategically. That's always been sort of the core of Plants vs. Zombies. So they did a good job of like figuring out how to adapt this collectible card game framework into like a PvZ feeling thing. And also there's like lanes, like in Plants vs. Zombies, it's just vertical instead of horizontal.
Lanes, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Haha.
We did
Ryan's
it.
back.
Cue Dora the Explorer.
Let's continue to call attention to our technical problems. Anyway.
So as I was saying.
Yes.
Okay, so I did play some more WWE 2K17, sort of fumbling and stumbling toward respectability. Not quite there yet, but the My Career mode feels a little more like what it should. My dream is for them just to do the NBA 2K17 career mode, except without all of the virtual currency nonsense. But that's not going to happen. This is going to be very much a B tier game for them going forward.
But that's not going to happen. I like how you just like.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not. Listen. The way these games are made is they have to answer to Vince McMahon, and they are happy enough with the games as they are. They sell okay. They're not going to want to invest any money or risk anything interesting. So the best we can hope for is just incremental stumbling steps towards goodness. But what I really want to talk about is I got a chance to play the Infinite Warfare beta over the weekend. And I got to say, I like it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, you like your Call of Duty sci-fi. That's how you...
Yeah,
that's the flavor of Call of Duty that you enjoy.
So I got the Modern Warfare remastered with it, right? Because I pre-ordered,
which is explicitly not sci-fi.
Yeah, but I'm like, okay, I should try this out because it is a gap in my knowledge. I didn't play the original Modern Warfare. I know it's like a really influential game. I do not like Modern Warfare. I know it's going to be like sacrilege to some people, but it feels weird. It is not, I don't know if it's like the remaster makes it feel off or something like that, but people who are like really into Call of I'm used to the more recent games.
Yeah, where it gets a little crazy and sci-fi and
yeah, I mean, but not just that, like the movement and the targeting and stuff like that. It feels a little off.
It was a way slower game. Modern Warfare 2 picked up the pace of it for sure.
Yeah, in my memory, it was pretty fast, but I feel like my memory is probably betraying me here.
That series has gotten just way twitchier and faster over the years, and that's the first entrance to it. So at the time, it was groundbreaking, and it felt like breakneck gameplay. But when you go back to it, you're like, this is like running around in molasses compared to like Advanced Warfare or whatever,
Yeah, I can't. Let me ask you a question, Brian. I can't like power slide. I can't do anything like that. What's the point?
As a social justice warrior, as I know you are. I'm kind of curious about the tone, because when it came out, it was in the midst of a very like a time in American culture that was very like, we'll put a boot in their ass,
yeah,
it was that kind of game. And I feel like now that might not do as well. Like it might feel a little weird.
It's an action movie. I mean, like it's a Bruckheimer action movie is what it is. But I really don't want to talk about Modern Warfare anymore.
Okay.
I'm not that interested in it. I mean, like tonally, it is what it is. I don't really like. I came to this series late because it got more sci-fi, robot, android stuff going on, and that's what I'm interested in.
When it became X-Men, I got interested.
Yeah, because literally, like, it's like a gradual progression. It's an arms race. You start off with Advanced Warfare, where you have exosuits and a robot arm. Okay, I'm paying attention. Then you get X-Men mutant nanomachine powers. Go on. And now it's like there's space colonists on the moon and they're attacking Earth. Yes, please, all of this. And so what they're doing is they're really leaning into that a lot more, and to varying degrees of success, I think, in terms of like the aesthetic. Like they have like the rigs, and each of the rigs has like different abilities associated with it. They're like an exosuit you wear. And I'm not really feeling those because a thing I really loved about Black Ops 3 were that when you had the special like classes, they were actual characters. They were people with faces and stuff like that. And they were really had a lot of personality, were really charming. There were certain characters I gravitated toward because I liked them. This is just, here's a generic looking costume, or here's a generic looking robot suit. And it's not quite as good from an aesthetic standpoint. As a gameplay thing, like if you played Black Ops 3, this is basically that. And I am pretty happy with it because I liked Black Ops 3. They're doing some cool stuff, like there's energy weapons and ballistic weapons. They have like little daily quests you can do where it's like, okay, get one close range kill. And then if you get one, it's like, okay, now get 3, now get 5. And so if you do that, you get to like kind of increase your faction XP and unlock like skins and customizing stuff and that sort of thing. There's also like, you know, they have the microtransaction mechanic in there with like keys to unlock loot drops and that sort of thing. So they're really kind of continuing the trend that the series has been going down. But in general, I know I had a lot of fun with it, and I see a lot of folks who are like the hardcore Call of Duty fans who are just kind of not feeling it, and it's like the TTK is too high or it's too low or whatever, and I don't really fully get. I know what it means, but I don't know like how you measure that and what makes it good and what makes it bad. I do know that there is a map that is on a space station, and when you kill somebody, their body floats along without gravity holding them down, and that's pretty funny. Like first, I thought it was a glitch. I'm like, oh man, they better polish this for release. Like, oh wait, no, we're in outer space. Gravity stopped working. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, that was the coolest thing of that Lone Echo demo. Is like if you don't hold on, you will drift off into outer space.
Yeah. Well, this is more of
and
like
then it becomes a gravity simulator, like the Sandra Bullock movie.
This is more of like just an aesthetic thing. Like when you're playing the actual rounds, you've got like your personal gravity field, so you're on the ground. Yeah. And it doesn't really change the physics too much because people would revolt if so. I would love to see it personally. But when you die, it's just like, I'm just gonna drift along. And so you see like bodies floating in the hallway.
That body is never being recovered.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm excited for the game. I think it's gonna be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm still terrible.
Not really that far away, I don't think. It's November sometime?
It's November 4th, so that's pretty close.
Pretty soon. A couple weeks. So, speaking of things that are close, tomorrow we're getting the trailer for Red Dead Redemption 2. That got our brains pumping on what that could possibly be, and also memories of the first one. So we're doing our deep dive on Red Dead Redemption, one of my personal favorite games of the last generation. My discussion questions, I'll just deal with these one at a time. But to give you a heads up about what they are, what do you remember most about Red Dead Redemption? What would you like to see in a sequel? And does it deserve to be in the game of the generation conversation? Because when people, bat around the idea of game of the generation, that's a title that tends to come up a lot. Mm-hmm. So, Asif, what do you remember? Like, what's your fond or not fond memories of the original Red Dead Redemption?
Just getting in one of those buggies and doing a drive-by at whatever village.
A horse drive-by.
Yeah, those horse drive-bys that you could do in that game were pretty great. I don't know, the multiplayer. I loved playing multiplayer in it. I mean, the story was fantastic. Here's my memory of Red Dead. I'm on my horse going somewhere, and there's something in the distance. It's either a mountain lion or an eagle or something. Mm-hmm. And I completely forget what I'm doing, and now I'm hell-bent on killing that thing. And then
there was a lot of drifting off the path to go do these weird events in the middle of nowhere. Oh, there's a cougar over there. I need more cougar pelts.
It's like it did. GTA does that, where here's a tangent if you want to go on it, but sometimes they feel disjointed and not really part of the world. That Red Dead did a great job of just giving you these random, those random people that you could encounter, and then you'd end up having to do something, or just random things to do, like if you needed pelts or something. I loved just grinding in that game. Didn't feel bad. It just felt peaceful. Everything about that game, just when you had to ride your horse down to Mexico or back, the scenery, the way that they told the story to you while you were traversing the levels, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I just think it was one of those. It's a really special game where it was I could spend hours, 10 hours in that game at a time, and it was like you wouldn't even realize how long you were there because it was just that immersive. And as far as game of the generation goes, I don't see how you couldn't put it in the top 5 of that generation.
I put it in the top 3, top 5 probably.
Yeah, to me, it's like some combination of that, Mario Galaxy, and BioShock. Like that's to me the games.
I'd put Journey somewhere in there, but we don't have to actually have the game of the generation discussion. Brian, I want to ask you about what you remember about it because I know at least part of your answer because we've actually talked about this game a lot, and I can tie it into what Asif said.
Okay. Well, I'm curious. Now you got me on the hook because I wasn't really planning anything in particular to say, but. So what jumps out at me is first and foremost the story, and also the thing that really strikes me about it is it's a very much a game that is evocative of a particular time and place. Their conscious decision they made to kind of set it in the early 1900s, which is where the Old West was kind of dying off, and our vision of like sort of the Hollywood ideal of what the Old West was is basically giving way to cars and streets and that sort of thing. Like the tail end of that game, or like the third act of that game, where you actually ride back to the city and meet up with the government agents, is just fascinating to me because it's just this huge tonal and aesthetic shift in the game. And when you start to realize how much of an anachronism Marston is, and how all this stuff that's like life and death out here is really just a secondary, or maybe even like a tertiary concern over here. It's like the world's moving on, it's advancing, and that to me is kind of interesting in a way that I don't necessarily know. I feel like this is Rockstar this is their bold artistic statement. Like they try to do this a lot, right? But I don't think they've ever done it as well as they have in this game. The other thing that really jumps out at me is that fundamentally, and this is what also intrigued me, that people, because I made this point before, and people point out, well, what about Bully? And yes, okay, Bully is also a good example of this, but to me, it's very refreshing to have in one of these kind of games, these open world games, a character that is unquestionably noble. Maybe not necessarily pure good, like he certainly has made some mistakes in the past, but
he's chaotic good, as they might say.
He's a good human being, right? He loves his family, just wants to kind of live his life, loves his wife, doesn't go out of his way to cause trouble, is kind of a reluctant participant in the whole proceedings. And some of the great Western heroes fall into that category. I'm thinking like one, for example, would be Christian Bale's character in 3:10 to Yuma, right? Who's just sort of this fundamentally good guy who gets caught up in this like maelstrom of corruption and awfulness that was sort of permeated the Old West and sort of that frontier culture. And there's just like a tragedy to his character ultimately, and that's the thing that really struck me.
This is full on spoiler discussion, by the way. Like this game is like 5 years old. We can just talk about.
If you haven't played it by now, come on, guys! Like, come on.
Pause the podcast. Go play for 40 hours.
I will say this: there are a surprising amount of people who haven't played it because it never came out on PC.
Yeah, we got a lot. We actually got a few comments like that on our chatty thread. Like, oh, I wish I heard all this praise for it. I wish I could have played it, but it never came to PC. Which is why, for the Red Dead Redemption 2, there was a lot of reaction, at least from our community. Like, what? No confirmation of PC? And it's like, well, they didn't really confirm much of anything yet, but hopefully they do bring that on PC, and hopefully they brought out GTA on PC, so I'm assuming they'll do it like about a year later. Like
God, they did us so dirty with GTA 5. Here's GTA 5 for 360 and PS3. Here's GTA 5 for Xbox One and PS4, and now here's PC. GTA 5 for PC. So they did us super dirty there, and I bought it 3 times because I'm a sucker. But
can I say something? They're going to do that again. They will absolutely do that again. Because it works.
To tie together what Asif said and what you said, Brian, because I mentioned that I could do that. I think there's like a type, like there's a GTA like, you could call it like a roguelike. There's a GTA like, and generally in those games, there's like a certain number of things you do that don't really mesh that much with the world. They sort of do in GTA because it's like, well, you're fundamentally like kind of a shitty person, like most of the GTA games star people who are like different levels of shitty. Like Franklin is probably like the least shitty of any GTA protagonist, but like he's still like a little shitty.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nico Bellic.
Nico was like former violent criminal who got drawn back into being a violent criminal.
But he was trying not to be. You got to at least give him that.
He was
anyway.
He was reluctantly in there, kind of like John Marston.
But they're all like different degrees of kind of bad. And in modern society, when a game is set in modern society, it's like no, that is undeniably bad. When Nico goes back into a life of crime, that is bad. Like it's not justifiable. It's not like okay, I can understand. But the thing they did with Red Dead Redemption that I think was very clever was in setting this kind of reluctant outlaw, fundamentally noble character in that setting of the Old West. Suddenly they contextualized everything that he did in a way that made a lot more sense. So you'd be doing these things that are like, that would be bad if you put it in a modern context in some way. But it's like, oh, well, it's the Old West. There's fewer laws. It's more like make your own way. You're not actually hurting anybody that doesn't deserve it, unless you're just kind of a jerk who ties a woman to the railroad tracks. But like you don't have to hurt anyone that doesn't deserve it in that game. If you tie
people to the railroad tracks, that's on you, psycho. Like that's not John Marston.
That's your own fault. But like all the people that you shoot in Red Dead Redemption, like have it coming in some way, in some sort of frontier justice way. They have it coming. Meanwhile, if you play a GTA game, eventually you're gonna have to shoot a cop. Like.
But I feel like you call it GTA likes. I would just call them all anarchy simulators. It's like you can do whatever you want. I feel like all of their games are almost like a psychology experiment because every single person plays them differently. So like you can do you can take on acts of vice in Red Dead Redemption if you choose to, but you don't have to. I think that's the difference between that and so many GTAs and their other games was that they gave.
And that's not even just a GTA thing. Like I call it GTA like because like Watch Dogs, for example, like Aiden Pierce, also a shitty person. Like like to make a game open world where your most common tool for interacting with the world is violence. To make a game over open world and to be able to interact with that world, you have to be able to inflict violence on just anybody. And so,
no, I think Trevor from GTA 5 is a perfect example of like the ideal character for an anarchy simulator because he doesn't give a crap.
That was a very self-conscious character of Rockstar that they were like, that was almost like them holding up a mirror to the player and being like, this is who you would really be if you were relishing in this stuff.
Yeah, if you love GTA, if this is your like favorite thing, you are Trevor. And I think you're right. It was like a mirror held up to gamers. But John Marston is this guy who you have the opportunity to be virtuous, and he's driven by virtue for almost the whole game.
He's driven by virtue, and the whole man out of time element of times changing, like Brian mentioned, and the way that plays into the ending of like his kind is dying out, and like I said, this is a total spoiler discussion. He literally dies out, like he can't escape his past in a way that
that angry. Last level was so good though. That is
it's one of the best endings in games that I've ever seen in my life. Like because it just illustrates the whole theme of the game is like a man trying to escape his past and how it's inevitable. It always catches up to you. You can't help it. And meanwhile, he's got this family. He's trying to like pass on a legacy. The whole reason that he's trying to do this is so that he can pass on a legacy of like, I have done this dirty stuff, but I want my kids to have a better life than I did. And the really tragic part of that ending is when you get that little coda at the end where Jack, I think his son is, where Jack Marston goes and sets out on his own revenge, and it's just cyclical. It's like the actions of John have created this cycle of violence that now Jack won't be able to break out of. It's
and ultimately, like, for all his work, for everything he does nothing, and that's so heartbreaking. Like it's like and like because like you said, it's basically like there's
beep.
Oh, Ryan.
Oh no. He's frozen.
He got taken over by the robot again.
But the end of that game, man, it was one of the best levels, I think, in anything. Just the amount of enemies you had coming at you, the against the odds,
and it's just helpless. I mean, spoilers for another several years old game. It sort of reminds me of the ending of Halo Reach, where the final
which
mission
came out around the same time.
Yeah, the final mission is survive for as long as you can. You are going to die. You are overwhelmed, but the point is that you are going to fight for as long as you can.
Yeah. I love that the game took this guy and built him up as like, we loved John Marston. Like by the end of that game, everybody loved John Marston.
He's such a noble, like I think Brian phrased it privately in chat before. Like he's kind of like a G shucks, like he's kind of a square.
He's a square.
You know, like he's such
for an outlaw.
He's such a noble, like lovable person.
Yeah, he's like
for all his faults.
He's like Walt Cleaver of the GTA universe.
like he meets Bonnie's he's the tip his hat and say hello, ma'am, kind of cowboy, and it's like that's really sweet. Fundamentally,
I love how Rockstar is almost poking fun at itself with that too. Like you'll walk down the street and like the local prostitutes will come out and like try to solicit you, and he'll just be like, "No, thanks, ma'am, I'm married." And I'm just like, and that's that's a really funny meta joke for what Rockstar's famous for, but also just like that's who he is. He's just not like he's got a job to do and he wants to get back to his wife and kid.
And this is a game that to circle back to the ending a little bit. A lot of people complained about the pacing in Mexico and the pacing drags and stuff. And I probably agree. I haven't played it in a long time. If I were to go back, I would probably agree. But I think this is a game where the story gets emphasized through gameplay in a way that you don't see in most open world games. Not only with the ending where you are physically carrying out this revenge as Jack Marston, and you are also making your last stand as John Marston. But just like by the time you finish that game, by the time you like have made your recompense with the government and they're supposed to leave you alone, you're like, I have earned this. Leave me alone. Like I have been through so much. This has been such a long, like, tiring experience. It was fun. I don't want to make it sound like the game wasn't fun, but it's like there was a lot of stuff in there that you had to get done to get the government to leave you alone. And then once you finally finished it, they don't. And so you feel that betrayal of like, I paid my debt, guys. I did what you wanted me to do.
It kind of, it's kind of like the federal agency in GTA 5, where they keep pushing you to keep doing stuff, and you're like, no, I already tortured that guy. I already did this. I already robbed that bank. Like, leave me alone. It's that they have that tone, where it's like, don't trust anyone. Don't trust the government for sure. But yeah, I think Mexico, the time spent there and the slow pace of it makes sense, because when you have to go underground, life is kind of boring and repetitive and dull. But you get into, you're still John Marston, you get into some crap, and it's like, I don't know. I think it made sense for that point in the game where you did have to kind of go, you had to get out of the country, the end is just one of the best in any game. Yeah. Like I really think so.
When the title comes up after you really finish the game, is just like, whoa, because that's like you're just like basically gobsmacked by
it makes it ironic. The whole game was about a literal redemption, like he's trying to redeem his past crimes in the government's eyes. And so you're sort of going the entire game thinking that's what the title is referencing. And then the way they bring up the title card right after the Jack's revenge sequence, it's like it twists it all of a sudden, and you realize the irony of that title.
To me, so let me put this out there. I feel that Rockstar has long believed it is this brilliant cinematic company that makes these really insightful, satirical, kind of like philosophical games about things like American culture and masculinity, that sort of thing. I think they think that. This is the one time they were actually that. Like, this is the one time they actually followed through.
It is in my mind, it's the pinnacle of their storytelling, which is, if we can spend a couple minutes on Red Dead Redemption 2, we can leap back and forth. I'm not saying we have to switch entirely, but that's what makes me nervous about calling this Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, having a number on it might mean that they're exploring the same themes, or that it's a direct sequel somehow, or maybe they just want the brand loyalty. Who knows? But like, I don't know how they top that story. I have no idea, and that's the thing that like I remember the most about Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it going to follow the GTA model where it's a new protagonist? Or because the Marston family is so tied into the story, is it going to be a Marston? That's my question.
What I would like is a GTA model where it's like different area of the country. Different area of the country, different protagonist, different time period, maybe an Easter egg that references the Marstons, and that's all we really need,
Yeah.
That's my hope personally.
The speculation, though, is that this is going to be John riding with Dutch's gang. And that'll be kind of like why we have
I hope not.
I hope not too. Like, because here's the thing, I'm not super excited about the press release or the stuff they put out. They really play up the online component. I'm not excited about that. I didn't play the online stuff in Red Dead 1 because who cares?
It was fun.
See, maybe it'll be better now. They've kind of like gotten a little more confidence behind it with like GTA Online and all that. But my fear is that most of the attention is going to be put on that, and like the story stuff is going to be.
I would like it to be mainly a story experience with an online component rather than, the other way around.
Sorry, guys. I hate to break it to you. The success of GTA Online and how how they nickel and dime players with these shark cards. They're going to do the exact same thing.
Of which,
100%. That's my problem. Like, this is
milk every last drop out of us.
There's a great comment from the chatty that ties into this perfectly. Zollington said, "If there's one thing that should be remembered from RDR, it's the story. Even the drawn out parts of Mexico don't take away from that. That's what I'm really hoping for is another great story." But then he says, although let's be honest, the majority of what Rockstar is going to be looking forward to with RDR 2 is people spending their money on horse cards. Yep. My guess is there will be 3 tiers: Palomino, Hungarian half-breed, and Mustang.
Yep. There you go. Nailed
it.
I
love them to bring back the horse apocalypse, though. That we didn't even talk about
Undead Night. That was pretty great. Yeah, I rode Death around quite a bit.
We can argue about whether or not that's game of the generation, but Undead Nightmare is absolutely DLC of the generation. Like that is, I cannot think of a single piece of DLC that was better.
Yeah, that was, and it was so meaty. It was like like a 20-hour DLC. It was like a
pretty hefty. Like I don't know if it was campaign, hours, but it was hefty.
You can tell though that Rockstar loves this franchise. So there is
they treat it with a lot of reverence and for good reason.
So there's a chance that they don't give us a crappy story, and they do give us a really great immersive first single player, and then they also milk the crap out of us with an online component.
Well, no, we probably shouldn't spend too much time on this because we'll all know. Like by the time the podcast is out, people will have seen the trailer.
Yeah.
One thing I want to mention real quick, another thing that Zollington brought up is the return of the Strange Man, who was the Undertaker, who dropped some pretty oblique hints that Marston was going to die. Pretty early on. I remember reading
that he was the devil or something like that, or am I thinking like that? Like,
I'll be seeing you soon, and So like I remember reading like one of those listicle articles that's like games that spoiled their ending, and it's like that's called foreshadowing, you idiots.
Yeah. Was that Cracked? Because Cracked has really been slipping lately.
It might have been Cracked, but like when people refer to foreshadowing as spoilers, I'm like, that's not what that word means.
It's like take an English class. Learn what a literary device is.
Yeah.
People don't.
It was pretty on the nose in a way that I didn't catch when I actually played Red Dead Redemption. That guy, like I saw him coming around and being creepy, but I never thought like, oh, John Marston is definitely going to die at the end of this. I was holding on hope the whole game that he was going to somehow make it out of this alive.
During that last level, you're like, nope. I'm not going to make it.
Yeah, there's no way.
You're like, there's just too many guys.
It almost kind of reminds me of like the hopelessness at the end of GTA 4. Because like at the end of GTA 4, Nico has exacted his revenge or whatever. But my memory of GTA 4's ending is like a low angle shot of him against the Statue of Liberty and him just looking like defeated. Mm-hmm. It's like that kind of hopelessness. But
he had to choose two losses.
But with legacy involved. It's that kind of hopelessness, but with no, this is going to affect his family for years.
Yeah. So to me, there's 2 things about Red Dead that I love. They're like story tropes or like literary design. The one is I forget who David Hermanos is the guy who came up with it, and David Brothers, not his Twitter name is Hermanos. Sorry, David Brothers, who is I think works in the comics industry, described the movie Magnificent Seven as an example of the forgiveness is between them and God. I'm just here to arrange the meeting genre. It's that kind of like really deep personal revenge story, right? Where you're fighting for some kind of like bigger goal or bigger thing than yourself. Red Dead was absolutely that. And the other thing is the sort of like hero, like outgunned, outman makes the last stand because it's the right thing to do. Like that was at the end of the game, which you talked about, but it's also like you said, the end of Halo Reach. Part of the reason that one I think is my favorite Halo game is because it is sort of like it shows the nobility of the hero and the heroes, and like everything is going to hell around you, but you're doing what you can.
That's like that's the one point in the Halo series that I think best illustrates like what a Spartan is supposed to be,
right?
You know. And why they've got all this nobility attached to the Master Chief character, but he's never made that kind of sacrifice.
So this is, I mean, if they can get that in Red Dead 2, then do all the online microtransaction stuff you want. Just nail that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we have to actually move on to other things. As fun as it is to talk about Red Dead and spoil everything for our poor chatty members who didn't.
We didn't even talk about Bonnie McFarlane, who is by far the best female character Rockstar has made.
Yeah, Bonnie was pretty great. That's a concern that's already been raised with this teaser image. They're just silhouettes. Yeah. I see two of them that I think could be female. That are a little slighter.
Rockstar's not good with this stuff, though, so I'm guessing they're not going to include.
I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like they have to know that that's a thing that people. If they are doing these 7 heroes thing, they can't just have 7 dudes,
right?
Yeah,
like come on, guys.
I'm especially not. I don't know. They hear the criticism. There's no way that they're not paying attention. Since GTA 5 and beyond, like there's room for a really strong female character in this series, I'd like to see it.
And
I even halfway buy the argument that GTA 5 is about masculinity in a sense. Like I don't know if I completely buy into that, but I kind of get where those proponents are coming from. But it feels like if you're going to have just this sheer mass of heroes that they imply with that silhouette, they can't make another game that's about masculinity again and just be like, that's why we have 7 guys.
And like, I love the people who are like, historically women did that. It's like Annie Oakley. Like, there's a long history.
There were people of color there. Like, don't break that out.
Yeah. It was a time where a lot of people were traveling through America, immigrating, coming to and from. Women were kind of expected.
Now, granted,
to be
women probably had like women probably had a tougher time of it, and people assumed more things about them. But 100%. They can integrate that into the story.
They're good at doing that kind of stuff. I want to see them do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's move on into newsy bits very quickly before the game. Sleeping Dogs, the developer of Sleeping Dogs, which is United Front, they shut down, and that's too bad because I actually thought Sleeping Dogs was a really cool open world game. Speaking of open world games,
it's a shame.
Yeah.
Shame.
It was such a unique setting,
and shut down, but that's a game that could have done well with a sequel.
Half of nailing an open world game is like a unique setting, which is why GTA Vice City is like my favorite. Because it's just that crazy 80s parody.
You get to it's like Scarface. You get to be Scarface. That's great.
And everything's pink and stuff, but So Sleeping Dogs, it had some cool hand-to-hand combat mechanics and a nice unique setting. It's really too bad that they didn't make it. I played some of the remastered version too, and it was actually like really beautiful. It holds up really well.
I think the hope is that someone buys that franchise.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Doesn't Square Enix still own it? Like,
I guess technically, so they could just give it to.
They could do something with it, but they haven't.
Give it to another studio, but they don't. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got their Western franchises. They've got their Deus Ex and their Tomb Raider.
Yeah. They're okay.
Our other sort of newsy bit was like, well, I have down the Hearthstone introducing Heroic Tavern Brawls. I think I'm the only one that has an opinion on that. Our other newsy bit was basically Red Dead Redemption 2, which we kind of spent the entire time talking about. So,
$10 for whatever tavern.
Yeah,
brawl?
that's a pricey entry fee. I don't know if I'm going to invest in that because
I don't like it.
No.
Like I am curious. I am curious, and I kind of want to try it out once, but I don't feel like I'm good enough to maybe even do that. Definitely not enough to do it twice, but maybe not even enough to do it once because I'll do it once and be like, well, that was a waste. Because I saw
there's so many better ways to spend $10.
I wouldn't spend $10 to be clear. I would spend like the gold that I've earned, but I saw the tier list, and I expected that the rewards would start to pay for themselves after 2 to 3 wins because that's how they do it in Arena. It looks like it's more in like the 5 to 6 range.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get up to 5 to 6.
I don't like Arena mode that much to begin with. So like,
Yeah. I don't know. This seems like an experiment. I guess they'll see how it does and then maybe rebalance.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the game. Beat the doc here. This week's game is called Lone Gunslinger. I'm going to name the name of a protagonist from a video game set in the Old West. You buzz in and tell me what the game is. It is always a he because video games. So, number 1, General George Custer.
Buzz.
Brian,
yeah. That would be the truly... I can't believe we're still even talking about Custer's Revenge on the Atari 2600.
Yes, Custer's Revenge. A game that is
so bad.
About rape.
Oh my god.
It's terrible. It's a terrible game. No one should ever play it. It shouldn't have been made. It's awful. But I thought that was funny that General George Custer is notorious.
Is that the first Atari game to ever be an answer on this?
Maybe it is.
It's got to be up there. It's not the first.
It's real bad. It shouldn't exist.
I remember that terrible game, but geez.
Moving on. Number 2. This one has multiple heroes, and that should be a clue. Steve, Billy, Bob, and Cormano.
Oh, Buzz.
Yes, Brian.
Buzz. That would
I assume that you know.
Sunset. That would be Sunset Riders.
Sunset Riders. That is correct.
Which
Sunset
is
Riders.
Amazing. I love Sunset Riders.
It is good. That's the game that we kept expecting to come out on that Xbox arcade thing and never did. There were rumors for so long and it never did.
I mean, if Konami were still a video game company, I would love for them to do a remaster, like a reboot of Sunset Riders, but it's never going to happen.
Yeah,
maybe a fewer stereotypes. That would be nice. But
this next clue might actually apply to several games, but I'm thinking of one in particular, so keep that in mind. The Stranger. The Stranger. What kind of Old West game would have an unnamed hero?
I think I've got it. Buzz.
Okay.
Would that be Oddworld Stranger's Wrath?
No. I mean, maybe, but no. That's
I think he's just called Stranger in that. Okay, so never mind.
That might well be a valid answer, but no, I'm not thinking of that one. Asif, do you have a guess?
No. I'll just say a random game. Parappa the Rapper.
Thanks.
Yes, you're right. Yes, it was it was Mad Dog McCree. It's a light gun game. That's why you're anonymous. You're just the stranger.
In my head, that's why McCree is named McCree in Overwatch. That is the reason.
It's probably I mean, you're probably not wrong.
I heard it was named for somebody at Blizzard, but in my head, it's Mad Dog McCree.
So next one up, again, this has multiple protagonists. That might be a clue if you know about it. Billy Candle and Ray McCall. Candle is in quotes, I should mention, but Billy, quote, Candle and Ray McCall. Nothing?
No.
All right, Buzz. Okay, that is Call of Juarez, which I mentioned that the multiple protagonists might be a clue because Call of Juarez generally does have two protagonists that you switch back and forth between their perspectives.
Okay.
That's sort of been the thing in that series.
Okay.
So last one, Colton White, which is a heck of a cowboy name, I got to say.
Oh,
Colton White.
no, I should know this one.
This one sounds familiar, but I can't place it.
I definitely have played this game. I just can't remember the name of it.
Yeah. It'll ring a bell, trust me.
Oh, God.
Is time running out on both of you?
Yeah, I'm good.
I need a sound effect board that plays that sonic sound when you're running out of air. Buzz, that is from the second best cowboy game to come out last generation. Gun. It was just called Gun.
Right.
No,
That
what
game was
about?
good.
See, I take issue with that because Call of Juarez Gunslinger also exists.
Yeah, Call of Juarez. I mean, Gun was more in the style of Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah,
I guess that's what I'm thinking of. Call of Juarez was a first-person shooter, so
yeah. But Gunslinger was so good.
But Gun was actually pretty good. It just wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
It was no Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
It came out after, right?
I think it might have come out before. I remember the graphics looking kind of choppy.
Gun was like an early, like a late PS2 Xbox thing and an early.
Yeah,
Xbox
I think it was like
360
ported to the 360, so it was like
It
of crappy PS1 graphics that have been up-resed a little.
It was very much a transitional game.
It was not bad. I remember liking it. Okay, there were some train robberies and such. Anyway, so that's my mark for like the quality of Western game is if it has train robberies.
No, I mean, yeah.
Let's go to plugs. If they just do a game called The Great Train Robbery, I'll be like, all right, game of the year.
I just want a Breaking Bad game. I want a Breaking Bad game because of that train robbery scene. That's like one of the best train robberies
that was pretty great.
ever. You know, I would love to. I don't know. I want a Breaking Bad game. Just complete non sequitur.
The blow up a man's face minigame.
It would have to be like a business sim, right? Like that's what it would have to be.
Yeah, like you're building your empire. And then Gustavo Fring comes and takes it all and forces you to work in the basement. Anyway, spoilers for I guess season 5.
I still believe that Jesse gets away in the end. That's the only way I'm okay with how that series ends.
Yeah,
he does.
They had to. Anyway, let's move
he goes
on
and he does woodworking in Alaska or wherever he wanted to go.
Yeah. Although the ending for Saul is not as rosy. He's working in a Cinnabon. That's a great series also, by the way. Better Call Saul. Anyway, let's move on to plugs. Asif, you haven't been on in a while, so what's up?
Yeah, modojo.com, mobile gaming site.
You've been modojoing it up a lot lately.
Yeah, I'm. You know, there are buddies.
You've chosen your favorite child.
No, I mean, no. They're all my children, and they're all great. I love Gamer Hub, I love Modojo, and I love Shacknews. Shacknews is clearly the biggest site, so I'm trying to help out our smaller little sister sites a little bit more.
I mean, like Modojo is up your alley a lot of the times when it comes to like Apple News and things like that. So
yeah, I mean, I love talking about mobile devices. We're covering drones over there now and wearable technologies. So those are things that just are better fit over there than on Shack. But yeah, no, I wrote an article on Shack yesterday. So but yeah, I would say keep a lookout for a bunch of our Oculus Connect content that's still kind of rolling out. We had a bunch of interviews that Greg shot. Yeah, and then our guides for Mafia and Gears are up and doing pretty well. Outside of that, yeah,
it's
I have a ton of impression pieces that I have coming out, and I may or may not have interviewed somebody from Oculus after Oculus Connect. I tracked him down in Orange County, and
did you just show up at his house with a microphone?
He was actually holed up in a villa in Newport Coast, kind of in a corner crying because he didn't get to attend Oculus Connect because he funded some weird Rare Pepe company instead. But yeah, it was weird, man. Oculus Connect was really bizarre. It was the most subdued event I've ever been to because Palmer Luckey wasn't there. There was definitely a cloud over the whole event.
He was conspicuously missing from that keynote. Yeah. Pretty clear that they had just like grabbed another person. They're like, "You're going to read this line now."
Well, yeah, it's like, from what I can tell, Nate Mitchell, who's also a co-founder of the company, is being elevated to be their product evangelist. But it hurts. That definitely hurts their brand. But the last thing I'll say, the takeaway I had from Oculus Connect was like, Facebook does not care what you think about VR. They're going to invest in it until it's a thing.
They definitely accented the social aspect of it a lot.
They've got the money to brute force it, so more power to them.
They're like 10 years, no expectation of profit. So if you think VR is going away, you're wrong. It's here to stay, and Facebook will be a player in it until a larger company comes in and squashes them. Yeah. But
Mark Zuckerberg seemed like, for all we could say about Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg does seem like legitimately committed to it. Like he's not just playing. Yeah.
And the other thing, one last thing is that they put underneath the Oculus logo, it says "from Facebook" now, and I think that was a direct affront to Palmer, kind of being like, "This is what happens
from Facebook. It's ours now.
This is what happens when you fund racist Rare Pepes."
So Brian, what are you plugging?
Nothing really big to plug. I mean, we got some cool stuff coming up for our event in December, but nothing to really kind of like play up. We're getting some cool sponsors. We're in talks with doing some really potentially cool stuff. But that's basically been it. And I've been working so much.
Support Brian's efforts to help the kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah, probably helping the kids. Extra Life.
That's right.
Extra Life is kicking off soon too. We're going to be doing something with that.
What day is that again?
November 5th. It's the same weekend as BlizzCon, which is a little bit weird. But yeah, we're probably going to be having like a get together of some kind to have our stream this year.
Clearly, Blizzard hates kids if they're going to do something like that.
Yeah, right. They're trying to keep kids from getting help.
Yeah,
it's evil.
And anyway. they're trying to keep Greg Burke away from our 24-hour stream, I guess.
We will talk more, I think, about our streaming plans. But obviously, I cut Brian off. Sorry about that. You've got your Jingle Brawl coming up.
Yeah, it's December 3rd. I'll if you want to go check it out, it's actually jinglebrawl.uwgb.org. We're on the official university servers and all that, so it's pretty exciting. But we're hopefully going to be finalizing our schedule, what we're going to be broadcasting online, that kind of stuff, and we'll have some links. And we confirmed that we are going to be supporting the local children's hospital here in town. St. Vincent HSHS Children's Hospital. So shout out to those guys. They're really excited about partnering with us. It was actually kind of funny. They're like, we're like, it's funny because like they just opened earlier, like I think last year after we did the event. And they're like, well, we can't believe that you guys thought to think of us to do this. Like they're all excited. Like, they're kind of like probably even more excited than we are to be doing this, which is cool.
That's nice though.
Yeah, that's really sweet. It's a really good kind of like mutual sort of enthusiasm going on.
So let me ask you this: if somebody wants to contribute something other than money, if they are, for example, a game developer and they want to contribute like codes as prizes or just a collectible or something, is there an avenue to do that?
There is. What you want to do is actually send an email to the official site or to me. I should say it's going to be seen by me, and I have to pull up what the email actually is. It's Jingle Brawl. JINGLEBRAWL at uwgb.edu. And I will be able to get it from there. So yeah, if you trust me, if you're a game dev, you want to like get your stuff out there, promote your stuff, by all means, please let me know.
We've got devs in the community, so I wanted to open that avenue.
Or hit him up on Twitter at LearnoNot.
That's right. Yeah, that's even better way to get hold of me. Just at me.
Yeah. That's usually a more efficient way for a lot of people these days to just send bits of information quickly. But who's got time?
So I will just plug. I'll plug everything on Shacknews. Why not? But my PSVR review just got finalized. My Skylanders review will go up as soon as I finish the game. They gave it to me like a day before release, and then PSVR also came out. So I was like, I got to prioritize here. But yeah, that review is coming sometime. And obviously we have a lot of reviews. We're sort of in the thick of review season right now. So we've got a lot of reviews coming up in the next,
Battlefield
in the next several weeks. Battlefield this week sometime.
I guess I'll post some Duke impressions.
Duke impressions, sure, why not? Yeah, we got codes just flying in left and right.
I don't know.
It's coming later this week too. We're getting that like a day before release.
I just wish I could go to Gearbox and shake them because it's like make a new game for God's sake.
I think Josh is going to be finalizing his Mafia review as well, which is another 2K game that we got a day before release. That's sort of the 2K thing now, I guess. It's giving us review codes a day before release. Anyway, that's the show. We will be back next week. Go and review us on iTunes. It helps other people find the show. Helps boost our ego and our fragile egos. So for Asif Khan, I'm Steve Watts.
I am Brian Carr.
And we'll see you on Chatty.